Samsung, proud sponsor of Techbusters.
Well, we are very privileged to be joined today by Mikko Hyponen, who is from the F-Secure Corporation in Finland and is one of the world's top people when it comes to security. In fact, in the top 50 of PC Magazine, he's highly regarded. You've seen him many times on many international channels. He's in South Africa at the F&B IT conference, and we've got the privilege to talk to Mikko to tell us more about where the world finds itself and talk about security and malware and those kind of things. Mikko, thank you for joining us on Techbusters. Where in the world are we at the moment when it comes to online security and cyber threats and all the dangerous things that we have on our computers?
Well, the situation is evolving, as it usually is. So we have new kinds of attackers coming from new geographical areas, targeting new kinds of systems, not just mobile systems, but also, for example, the Internet of Things is now one of the targets.
Is the world more dangerous today than what it was 10 years ago?
Maybe not, because 10 years ago the situation was very bad. Like 10 years ago, Windows XP was the main platform. We had all these massive worms like Blaster and Slammer and Sasser. So the situation security-wise has improved a lot. Especially Microsoft has done a great job in improving Windows security. But at the same time, the attackers have completely changed. If we would have the same enemy we had 10 years ago, we would be in a great shape today. Unfortunately, the enemy has changed and the situation isn't very good either.
Mikko, we often imagine a hacker sitting in a dark room in the early hours of the morning, creating crazy things in the world that we're living in. What is the actual profile of a hacker?
Well, they aren't just trying to destroy people's lives for no reason. Today, all the attackers have some motive. They all benefit somehow from their attacks. It might be criminal gangs who make money with banking Trojans, ransom Trojans, or keyloggers which steal credit card numbers, or it might be a hacktivist gang who want to protest and show their protest by launching attacks against their targets. And then we have also nowadays the government as one of the source of the attacks, for example, for espionage purposes.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating, Mikko. And you mentioned that, governments and cybersecurity against governments is going to be a big issue. Now, we've had these massive protests in Hong Kong taking place, and you shared some interesting insight into one of the security threats that came from elsewhere that people had downloaded on their phones without realizing what it actually was, and somebody was eavesdropping on them.
Now that the protests are peaking in Hong Kong, it was very interesting that last week we saw this application which was being distributed to the protesters themselves in a WhatsApp message, and it claimed to be an app which the protesters could use to organize themselves. Yeah. But that's not what it was at all. It was actually a backdoor which gained access to the protesters' phones, and they could see their contacts and also their location. And we believe this application was coming from China, most likely from the Chinese government.
Shellshock and Heartbleed, I mean, these have been the biggest. You mentioned that to IT people and their eyes light up, they get all scared about it. Where are we with Heartbleed, which is in the past, and where are we with Shellshock, the latest threat to online security?
Both Heartbleed and Shellshock are vulnerabilities in open source systems, Linux or Unix-based systems. Yeah. They're both very serious. Heartbleed is sort of past us by now. It happened a couple of months ago, and once you patch your system against Heartbleed, the attackers can no longer steal information from you. Yes. But Shellshock is actually more serious, because even if you patch today, the attackers could already have used Shellshock to gain access to your systems, and even though you patch, they might still be in your systems.
You've been in business for a long time. Take a consumer like myself. What is the best advice that you can give me to protect myself?
For almost any user, my advice is three different things. First thing, back up your systems. Back up your phone, back up your tablet, back up your computer, back it up so that you can recover even if your house burns down. That's the first thing. The first thing is not antivirus or anything like that. It's backing up your systems and making sure the backups actually work. Then, patching. Make sure your systems are up to date. Make sure your browser is up to date. Make sure your browser plugins are up to date. And not just your computer, also your phone, also your tablet. And then only once you've done these two things, then you start thinking about security applications and firewalls and antiviruses. But backing up is the most important thing you can do.
Well, that was Mikko Hyponen. Absolutely fascinating talk. And follow him on Twitter as well, because he's always got interesting insights. His Twitter handle is @Mikko. Stay secure online.